In this video, we will be factoring trinomials using the decomposition method. I personally love this method, so let's get started. So let's say you have a trinomial in the order ax squared plus bx plus c, like that, where a is not a 1. So in the previous videos, we talked about factoring trinomials, and usually a was a 1. And if a wasn't a 1, you could usually pull out a common factor. And so this is when a isn't a 1, and you cannot pull out a common factor. The decomposition method is one of the methods that you can use to solve or to factor your trinomial. Okay, so here's a question. Here are a term is not a 1, it's a 5 in this case. I'm just going to write that out. Okay, our term A is a 5. And then we can't pull out any greatest common factor. We can't pull out our GCF, right? Because there's no common factor between term A, term B, and term C. If you were given a question like this, the first step would be to multiply term A and term C. This is term A, this is term B, and this is term C. This includes the sign. So the first step is to multiply these two terms together. In this case, the two numbers in the term, so you can ignore the variable. In this case, we have 5 and 9. So step 1, we're going to take 5. We're going to multiply it by 9. Again, the dot or the period means multiplication. And we're going to get a 45. Because 5 times 9 is 45. So now we're going to take the 45 and say, what are we going to multiply together to give us 45? But also add or subtract to give us the B term, which is negative 46. So we're going to have to start kind of brainstorming. What are we going to add to give us 45, but subtract or add to give us negative 46. Keep in mind that the negative 46 comes with it, so you have to put that into your questions as well. So off the bat, when I'm thinking about it, I think that we can multiply negative 45 and negative 1. Now, when we multiply negative 45 and negative 1, we get a 45, right? Because negative 45 times negative 1. Again, negative times negative is positive. 45 times 1 is 45. But then, can I add them together, right? Plus or subtract anyway. When we do that, we get negative 46. So this negative 45 and negative 1 is the right answer. This could take a little bit of trial and error, but the more you do it, the easier it's going to get to figure out what those two numbers are. So then the next step is you're going to rewrite those two numbers, the two numbers from the step 2 right here, you're going to rewrite that in place of the B term. And you're going to add variables as needed. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to explain. We have 5v squared. Now, in place of negative 46v, we're going to put negative 45v and negative 1v. So we're going to have negative 45v. And I'm adding the v this time, right? And then we're just going to keep our positive 9. So we're going to take that and put it in there. Keep our positive 9. Again, just replacing the negative 45 and the 1 for the B term. Now we're going to put the first two terms and the last two terms in brackets. So it's what I mean by that is just put in brackets around them like that. So then this becomes one thing and that becomes another thing. Okay, hope you're following so far. So next thing we're going to do is to pull out our common factor between each bracket. So 5v squared minus 45v, our common factor here would be 5v. So when I pull out 5v, I'm left with v, subtract, 45 divided by 5 would be a 9, and then just the v will cancel out. Now we're gonna do the same for the next term, which is negative 1v plus 9. Now, is there a common thing that I can pull out? That people could just look at that and be like, no, but the aim for pulling out your common factor is to make both of these brackets be the same. So you could look at this bracket over here and just think, oh, well, there's really nothing I can really pull out. But to make it look like v minus 9 right here, you can pull out a negative 1, right? And also, I personally like working with negatives in between the expression, not in front. So not a negative 1 or a negative something v right here. I'd rather have the negative over here. So I'm going to pull out that negative 1. And when I pull it out, I'm going to be left with a v minus 9. So now both brackets, this bracket and that bracket, look identical, and that's what we want. If you do this and both brackets don't look identical, you've done something wrong somewhere. You might have to go, and that's why I love this method so much, right? There are like little checks for yourself, like mini checks for yourself to know that you're on the right track. So now we're gonna take, I know this is a lot of steps. Check the description box for the steps written out for you. But we're gonna take these two, the things we pulled out, and put it in one bracket. And we're gonna just take one of these since they're the same, and that will be our second bracket. And this is our final answer. Wow, that just seems like a lot to digest. But we're gonna do another example. And after that, I'm just going to give like a couple of questions that you can practice on your own, and then I'm going to solve it. And then that would be it for the video. Okay, here's another example. One thing that I need to mention is always when you're factoring, except told otherwise, but usually always when you're factoring, the first step is always to check for a GCF. Check if there's something common between every term that you can pull out. That's going to make your equation much easier. It's going to really streamline what you're solving for you, and you might find yourself using a more difficult method if you don't take out your GCF compared to you just taking it out and you're just going to see the simplest method, the easiest method you can do. Now, if you, let's say in the past or in the future, forget to take out your GCF, you could still get the right answer, but then you're going to have to put in so much more effort to get the answer. And also, you might get some points taken out because you forgot to simplify your work to the lowest it could be. So the first step is always take out your GCF. But here we go. So in this equation or this expression, there's no GCFs to take out, and my first term is not a 1. My A term is not a 1, so I'm just going to go ahead and solve this using the decomposition method. Like I said earlier, the first step using the decomposition method is to multiply term A and term C. Okay, and I'm going to try and color code this one so it looks a little bit more appealing to the eyes. But we have 3a squared minus 3a squared minus 20. We're just going to take the numbers. So 3 multiply minus 20. So it would be 3 multiply negative 20, which would be equal to negative 60. Okay, and now the next step would be to find two numbers that multiply to give us negative 60 and two numbers to add to give us negative 28. Okay, so when I think about that, so you can try it, but I'm just going to say the answer, it would be negative 30 and positive 2. Keep in mind, I'm looking at the signs in front of these numbers, right? Because I have negative 30 and positive 2. If the signs changed, I would get something different. So negative 30 multiplied 2, just to prove that it's correct, would be a negative 60. and negative 30. Add 2 would be a negative 28. That checks out. So then we go on to the next step. Putting these two numbers in place for the middle term. Okay? So we're going to rewrite our equation. 3a squared. Now, in place of negative 28a, we're going to put negative 30a plus 2a, and then minus 20. Right. So the next step would be to put them in brackets, right? Just kind of classify them. So we're going to have this one here, this one here, and then this bracket here, this bracket here. Then the next step would be to write them out, take out the common factor. Again, the aim is to get both brackets with the same things in them. Let's put it basically. So for this one right here, we can take out a 3a, and then when we take that out, we can take out 3a, so we have 3a. In the bracket, we're still going to be left with a, and we're going to subtract 10. And then in this other bracket, we can take out a 2, just a 2, not a 2a, because the 20 doesn't have an a, so we're just going to take out a 2. And we're going to be left with a minus 10. Again, both of these brackets look the same, so I know I'm doing it right? If this was a positive or there was something somewhere, I would have to take out something or go back and check my work. So I know I'm doing it right. Again, for the next step, we're going to take these, put it in one bracket, and take those and put it in another bracket. Well, just one of them, right? So we're going to have 3a, and then that's a positive 2, right? So plus 2. That in one bracket. We're just going to take one of them since they're the same. There's no need to take any more than that. That in another bracket. And this is our final answer. So I hope the second time it's getting a little bit clearer and clearer. I'm going to give like 2 questions because it is a little like there's a lot of steps to doing this method. So I'm going to give 2 questions and try it on your own. And then I'm going to solve it to check your work with it. Okay, here are 2 questions. You can pause the video, please, and try them out on your own and check your answer when you get back. Okay, I hope you've tried out the questions, but let's solve it together. So here we have 2n squared. Here we have 2n squared minus 13n plus 18, and we ask the factor completely or just factor. Again, there's nothing to pull out, and the a term is not a 1, so the composition method seems likely in this case. So the first step is to multiply term a and term c, so 2 times 18, which is going to give us a 36. And again, it's a positive 36. Next, we have to find 2 numbers that add to give us 36. Actually, that multiply to give us 36, positive 36, and adds or subtracts to give us negative 13. Pardon me. So the numbers are negative 9 and negative 4. Again, they add up. So the next step is to replace the b term with that. So we're going to do that now. We're going to have 2n squared minus 9n minus 4n plus 18. Then after that, we could put them into, you can use round brackets or square brackets. At this point, it doesn't matter to me. And then after this, we're going to take out the similar things from both of them. So here, we're going to take out, in this case, we can take out n. right? We can take out n, 2n. Actually, no. So now we're going to find something that we can pull out from both. For this one, we can pull out just n. We're going to have 2n minus 9. For the next bracket, I'm going to pull out a -2. And I'm using a -2 because I know that I want this square and that bracket to be the same, or like the next bracket I'm going to write. And I know that when I pull out a negative, this is going to make that sign a negative. So I'm going to pull out a -2. I'm just going to leave this with a 2n minus 9. So now these two brackets are the same. So I know I did my work right. So I'm going to have one bracket with n -2 and the second bracket with a 2n minus 9. One thing that I want to mention is the order in which you put this number into your bracket. It does not matter. It really doesn't matter. And I'm going to just use this example here for, to show you, because we have -9, -4. I put it in that order, -9 and -4. And what if I flipped it and I did 2n squared minus 4n minus 9n plus 18? What if I did it this way? Would I still get the same answer? Yep, you would. It might look a little different, but you will still get the same answer, right? So let's quickly just do that. I'm not really going to talk a lot. So we're going to pull out 2n from here. We're going to be left with n minus 2. Right, and here we're going to pull out -9. And we're going to be left with n -9. So it's going to be n minus 2. Right? So we're going to be left with 2n minus 9 and n minus 2. Right? It's the same as this. Obviously, the order is different, right? That one came first. But either way, we're still going to get the same answer. So let's go to the next question. We have 35m squared plus 195m minus 90. Again, the first step is to always look for a GCF. Looking at this question, my A term is not a 1, and I could have just gone ahead to start using the decomposition method, but I looked and I found that, there is something similar. There is something that I can pull out from each of these, and that would give me a GCF that I can pull out to simplify this trinomial a little bit more. So we're going to do that first. Looking at that, my GCF is a 5. Just a 5, not 5m, because that doesn't have an m, because this doesn't have an m, so we're not going to pull out that. So next, we're just going to rewrite it. After I pull out a 5 from there, I'm going to be left with 7m squared plus, after I pull out a 5 from this one, I'm going to get a 39m. And then if I pull out a 5 from this one, I'm going to be left with I'm thinking 15. Not 15, 18. -18. So now we can use the decomposition method. Okay, so we're going to multiply 7 and 18, and we're going to get -126. And we're going to then figure out what number is going to give us 39. And that number would be 42 and 3. But the signs here would be a plus 42 and a -3. So then we're going to then put them in brackets in place of this. Now we're going to keep bringing down this 5 over here, right? Because we don't want that, but we don't want that to just be left away from the equation. If not, we're going to be wrong. We're going to have a plus 42m and a minus 3m and a minus 18 in a bracket. Now, again, we're going to put them. Now, I like to put square brackets in this case for the big gun, right? Because I still want that 5 to keep coming down with me. And I'm going to have smaller brackets in there, right? And then we're going to have -3m minus 18. Okay, just enlarging this here. And then we're going to bring out the common things, or we're going to keep the 5. Okay, the big bracket. The common thing here would be a 7m, because it's going to leave us with m plus 6. And for this, the common thing is going to be a negative 3, which is going to leave us with m plus 6. And then a bigger bracket, right? So our final answer, I'm just going to bring this up top here, would be 5 still. And then again, we're going to have bigger brackets. I'm going to make this a little smaller, right? And then in there, we're going to have m plus 6 as one bracket. And the second one will be 7m minus 3 for the second bracket. So this would make our answer completely right. If we got rid of this 5, our answer is going to be wrong, right? And obviously you can check your work and go back to foil your answer in and everything, and then to check your work and see if you're right. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next one. Bye.